everyone. Welcome to National Entrepreneurship Week's Everyday Entrepreneur Speaker Series. We are so excited to be here today with Paula Hegele. Did I do that right?
You did it right.
Okay. Paula Hegele, she gave me the grace to have a conversation about pronunciation beforehand because she is hailing from Hawaii, and we have several very awesome sites to talk about when we talk about her company, Maui Wine. So welcome, Paula.
Thank you. Good morning.
We are excited to dive in, but before we go into some questions, I want to just give a brief overview of your bio so that we can kind of level set for our audience. So, established in 1974, Maui Wine is located on a scenic ranch on the slopes of a Hawaiian mountain that Paula's going to talk to us about. The winery produces regionally inspired still and sparkling wines made in their own vineyard, as well as locally grown Maui Gold pineapples. Total production is under 30,000 cases annually. With 26 employees, Paula manages a fully integrated company as a diversified farmer, wine manufacturer, wholesaler, and tasting room retailer. Her success as president, manager, and visionary of Maui Wine is reflected in the agriculture significance of the wines, in the allegiance from the local community and the recognition from visitor industries, and in the steady forward momentum of the company. With a background in the travel industry and education and finance, Paula began working for the winery in 1990 and has been instrumental in shaping Maui Wine into a successful and innovative destination winery. So I'm always looking for destination wineries, and I'm excited to potentially visit Maui Wine at some point in my life. Would love to get over there. So tell me a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey and kind of how you got to Maui Wine.
Well, it was never planned. And maybe that is common for most of us. It was not in the plan. I moved to Maui in 1980 with my husband, who was raised in the islands. So we ended up, I thought we would leave Hawaii by the time I wanted children and we'd be around family, and you end up all of a sudden, oh my goodness, I've lived here more than half of my life and this is certainly my home. So I started, we had moved from Kauai back to Maui in 1990. And one of my favorite places in my early years in Hawaii was where I am now, which is Ulupalakua. And Ulupalakua is a location on Maui. It's a 20,000 acre cattle ranch. And for those of you that are familiar with Hawaii, you know that you can just go a couple miles and the area has a different name because the weather can be different. Everything can change. The community is different. So there are multiple names. We are in the city of Kula, but Ulupalakua is a very special place that's kind of at the end of the road, out of the way. And I'm on the slopes of Haleakala, which is the dormant volcano on Maui. And the winery is at about 2,000 feet elevation. We're above the ocean and with the mountain behind us in a beautiful location. So I came here, I actually came to the winery for a party with my husband, who my husband's company was having a gathering and a wine tasting. And I just talked to the people that were running it at that time. And we had that communication of this was my happy place. I grew up in Washington State. And so when I was having rock fever, as a young girl on the west side of Maui, it was like, take me for a drive. The road ends everywhere. We've got to go somewhere. And couldn't fly, you couldn't. So it's like, okay, we go for a drive. And we'd go for this drive to Ulupalakua. And it reminded me of the Northwest. It was just big trees and beautiful pastures. And it was just, I felt like I'd gone somewhere. So this was always had a special place in my heart. So it is amazing that I'm back here. And after I had met with the people here during this party, they started calling me a couple weeks after that and going, hey, would you consider coming to work out here? And it ended up eventually we came into, my children were young at the time. My husband had a very busy job. And it was like, okay, I'd love to come work out there. And I did a part-time job working for the general manager at that time. And it was just a space that I loved coming out to and being a part of, and I learned little bits. What ended up happening was the company was going through a transition of original owners and just, does this make any sense? And for those of you who know anything about the wine industry, or then you add Hawaii to it, this business is crazy. It's really tough. It's to be doing wine and growing grapes in Hawaii is a huge feat. It's a costly venture, and so it has to be out of love, I guess. But anyway, so they were looking at maybe just deciding that it wasn't going to work. I was naive and excited enough about my time with them that I was like, this is cool though. I love the people. I love the idea. There was so much to improve upon that it just got all my excitement going. It was just so easy to make things better and to, care about it and get the stuff out there in the community. So it was really exciting for me. And the owner of the ranch, a wonderful man who's been very innovative, Part Erdman, who he also owned a portion of the winery and still is my co-owner in it today, was kind of like, if you want to do this, you just do this, and I'll just be here to help you when you need it. And because I didn't know what I was getting into, it was like, okay. I think still years later, I go, oh my goodness, if I really would have known what I was doing, I probably would have been more scared and not done it. But it was just, the idea of this business is so wonderful because it is significant to the area. And those are things that are very important in Hawaii. And for wines, it's very important where the wines are made, how they're grown, the agriculture stuff. So it's a very nice mix. It's just it's hard when nothing that you need to make your product is here.
Is there. Yes. You have to import everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I just got off another interview with Alex Fielding at Privateer Space, and he talked about how you're like the mission and the meaning behind what you do is what keeps you resilient. And I think you just spoke to that so eloquently. So I do want to ask, and kind of hinted at this a little bit, your biggest challenges, which I think would probably be when nothing is on your island, kind of based on what you're talking about. Can you talk a little bit about the obstacles that you've faced in your journey and how you overcome them as the owner?
It is. I came into it without having a wine background either. I had a financial background.
Right.
And then living in Hawaii, was working in hotels. Hospitality is such a big industry here, right? Hospitality is the industry. And so learning my way is that I think actually, after being here for 30 some years, I think my naiveness actually helped me to tackle everything and accept it and not be somebody that because I have hired multiple consultants over the years and had fantastic partners. And it's really hard for someone who knows what they're doing and it doesn't work here. So for me, I had nowhere to go but just to expand and try and gather partners. And I think that's part of my success, is that we're extremely remote. Hawaii is remote, Maui is remote, Ulupalakua upcountry, Maui is even more remote. So everything that we need has to be shipped in here. And so I believe that partnerships, being somebody who was able to go, I don't know, can you help me, or what would you do? As well as just taking in all that information, because I've had dozens and dozens of people tell me to do something different than what I'm doing. And you can't keep changing every time someone tells you to do something different, but you have to take in that information and not be hurt. And then go, okay, but now I know that, and what am I doing, and what makes sense for my community, my employees, my goals to the company. So I think partnerships and being open to going to people for help. And in fact, I was just on a phone call from someone calling about going, hey, who do you get your glass and all of this kind of stuff from? It's like, I work directly with all of these companies. It's about the relationship, because it's all going to be costly, but it's even more costly to me if someone ships me something that doesn't work, or they ship me the wrong thing. And I get equipment from Italy. I get equipment from France. We have suppliers in California. We have suppliers in different countries. So thank goodness the world is as small as it is right now, and you can communicate with everyone. But it's about creating relationships with people that helped me to get what we needed to run this business.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big part of what we uplift at National Entrepreneurship Week, is that it's not an independent endeavor to become an entrepreneur. It is reliant on the larger ecosystem that you're engaging with. And I think you speak to that so perfectly. I do have to ask, we kind of have a phrase for what you have come into with Maui Wine, is this idea of entrepreneurship by acquisition. Like, you had an existing company that you then came into and sought co-ownership with. So like, what is that like for folks? We talk about that as kind of this non-traditional path to entrepreneurship, where you see the potential in existing opportunity. And so I wonder if you could speak a little bit to your experience on that. You talked a little bit about, you didn't have the wine background. Kind of how was that perceived by the community when you came in?
It makes you get tough because you don't know, you're not set to go into this. You're kind of just on a wave and it's happening. And so even with the staff that was here, it's like, wait, who is she? And I told about this small community. I'm an outsider, at that time in the 90s, it was like, wait, you drive here? You don't live in this tiny little community? And how can that work? And so you do learn a toughness, but you do get to see the opportunities of what was going right and what was going wrong when someone else was leading it, or what were their goals. I think it's really important to take the time to learn the past.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really easy to go, this is what I want it to be, and to jump on it. But if you don't know the hurdles and the goals and things that were done before your time, and that's also, I think, a blessing, because you also have this background that somebody else experienced,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to take on and then grab information from. So it's going to go both ways. There's good and bad in both ends of it. But I think that you get a little bit of a roadmap that helps you to kind of set your course of action in taking over something that was existing. It's maybe a little bit easier. Maybe it's part of my personality. It was easier to change and adapt something than maybe I was not capable of giving birth to it. It wouldn't have even been my concept, right? So I was more like picking up the pieces of something that someone else no longer had that passion for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get to breathe life into it in your own way after you are coming into this established company.
Right.
Kind of speaking on that piece of like how you made it your own, kind of the direction that you took it. What are your biggest successes, or what are you most proud of? Or are there any new products or services or any innovative approaches that you took when you started at Maui Wine as like the leadership role?
Well, again, I think a lot of it comes down to relationships, and that's as well with your staff. It's building a team. And one of the things that I think has benefited me is I never believed I was an expert in any way. I didn't know what I was doing. And so leaning upon those that did and empowering them to take those leads, take what they have learned and that you want their information, and build a team. I feel like I was an orchestrator. And maybe that's because as an entrepreneur, it wasn't my idea, right? So it was easier for me to let go of that. It would be really hard, I think, if it was my idea and I had all these plans, it would be much harder to let go. But because I didn't, it was more like, okay, how do I just get everyone to play together well and keep it going? And because the company, like you mentioned earlier, is fully integrated, we have a farm, we're manufacturers in a place that doesn't have a lot of manufacturing, let alone wine manufacturing. We have a destination tasting room that is probably one of the most successful seen tasting rooms in the country, because we have year-round guests that are coming to visit us. Can you close my door? Like someone's in my office.
Day in the life of an entrepreneurial leader, folks.
We'll see, someone probably came in to help me. But I think it was easier to be more collaborative and need to lean on others. And so I always said, I'm keeping everybody with a purpose, a goal. And going back to what I was starting to say is that we have all these very different departments, and then the office and marketing, and we're shipping around the world and we're purchasing from around the world, is that I almost have a different sort of employee base and culture in those places. And every department thinks they work harder than every other department, right? I mean, there's times I have worked, that's been one of my sole things, is to get everyone to understand what the other people in the company do, and to include them and bring everyone in, put people in different departments, because every department, one department comes out, we're a three-legged stool. And if one of those legs and one of those areas doesn't make it or fails or has a problem, the whole thing falls.
Sure.
And so we're forced, we have to be dependent and understand what's going on in each of the departments. Look, I have a hospitality room, and then you have farmers, and then you have science and pulling hoses and squishing fruit in another one. They can easily see or not see, oh, what are they doing? They're just having fun every day. They're doing that. So it's to get them to understand that has been, I think, one of my major goals and my achievements in putting together a really diverse team.
I think that's incredible. And we talk about that a lot, that it's getting everyone to be like-minded, moving forward in the same direction, but also acknowledging the differences and the value that they bring independently to the table. So I love that. I think that's so important for people to
we would not succeed if we were all the same. There's no way, if I had the same type of staff, we would not be able to succeed.
Yeah, I think that's such a powerful thought. And I think it's hard for, especially entrepreneurs that are starting with their own idea. They might want to find partners that are drinking the same Kool-Aid and moving, but you really do need somebody to challenge you and to like encourage you to think in other ways about your idea. And so I think it's wonderful that is something you cited as your biggest accomplishment. So
it is. And when I fail myself, because you have times where it's really hard, and times where it's fantastic and you go back and forth, and I kind of try to base myself when I'm in times of struggling with it to bring everybody back using like a servant leadership, and just go, we're all working for Maui wine. And if we start making our decisions, or somebody suggests a change, and what is it, or I don't like that, I don't see, it's like, well, what is best for Maui wine? Because Maui wine, we're all serving it, and we all have our jobs and our, we spend a lot of time at work. That it's important that be the healthy piece, and that we're all going through. And so that's what we have in common.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm also not surprised at all. Both of my conversations today have had very similar themes. Like, this is your work family. You are with them oftentimes more than your at home family. And so it's important to have like this culture and this environment where everyone moves in the same direction. Everyone thinks about the benefit of the company. And I love that you're talking about servant leadership in that framework. So perfect. Well, I have to ask, this is kind of our culminating question for every conversation, because we have just this wide range of individuals that will watch these when they premiere and when they'll watch them in our archive, that are interested in starting their own business or pursuing an entrepreneurial type venture like yours, where they come into a company and they take on a leadership role. What advice would you give for those aspiring entrepreneurs? What would be your like one nugget of advice if they had to leave with something from this conversation?
Yeah, it's hard to do just one nugget of
advice. I know.
But, and it probably just comes from the things I did say, is that you cannot do it alone. You will not succeed alone. It may be your baby and your passion and your heart, but you have to build a team. You have to build a support team. Even if it's a business that maybe you're doing on your own, is your support in the community, the people around you. Like, we have our little business here. We're surrounded by a ranch. We have to have community support within the ranch, or I don't exist. We do a lot of work in the community. I believe a lot in giving back, being there was a lot of bigger business when I started. There was other big businesses on Maui, more than there are today, but they helped me so much in so many different ways. They were the big guys, and I was just this crazy girl that thought she was making wine, and everyone thought I was crazy. Everyone did. It made no sense. And so those relationships, so I take a lot now to go, I have to do the same for people that are trying to make their way now. And I do with the college, and we have a food innovation center of taking your passions and getting something from a concept to actually a consumer, and helping people, because it is the mental. It's just hard to be an entrepreneur. You're very, very alone. You feel alone a lot. And so you have to really work to create relationships with people that are working with you, and with you, not for you, with you.
Yes. I'm said I wasn't going to do this because that was going to be my last question, but I have to ask. So National Entrepreneurship Week is really big about ecosystem and how it can nurture entrepreneurs. And I know our friends at Maui Biz Brains connected us to you and the work that you're doing. If you had to provide like a tidbit of a person in a community to reach out to, if you have an idea, like, do you have any advice as somebody that has been in that kind of, I'm not familiar with this landscape, who would I go to first type of advice?
So you mean what advice I'd give them if they wanted to know how to start?
Yeah, like who should they go to in their community if they're trying to get started?
Well, obviously the Maui Brainstormers, that's a lot of what they do. And that's how they got connected with me, as just being able to tell stories and helps. The other thing, there's so many. I'm working a lot with Maui College, and we're trying to develop, because entrepreneurship is not really something that culturally has been a part of Maui. And so that's been something we're really working to kind of change some of the dynamics, and to be able to have, also, this is an area where a lot of people leave. There aren't the opportunities for our youth, and they change, or they go to college and they don't come back. So looking for that. So I use a lot, because like you said, I don't necessarily network, but I have no problem picking up the phone and going, I need help.
Yeah.
Do you know how to do this? Use people that know more than I do. If they do something better than I do, let them do it, because I have enough to do, and let them help. But for us in the community here, there's going to be things like the groups that are creating entrepreneurship. The Chamber of Commerce is always a great place to go. The college has a lot of research and data. There's a lot of free help out there. Economic development offices, they're very innovative, at least here on Maui. Economic opportunities, the communities that want their economies to grow and develop young businesses. So I think they're out there, but you got to go look for them. Yeah. They don't find you, right?
I think that's the initiative, right? Like that help is there. It's free. You can reach out and just say, I need support in this, but you've got to reach out. And that is
there are people that know, like I said, use people that have their expertise.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like what they say, or you can't use it, you will be amazed how that information becomes your frame of reference. Like I'm a big believer in, you're a product of your life's experiences. And sometimes you don't know why you're having this experience, but someday, it will come. So gathering all that information, when you take it in, even if something doesn't make any sense. I mean, someone could walk into my vineyard, and I've had dozens of them, and go, you should be growing, and give me something totally different. And I know I can't do that. I know I don't have the money or the resources or why, but you know, it's information, and pretty soon you're like, wow, I've had over the last 10 years, you know, 5 different viticulturists tell me I should look at this one variety. I need to
Yeah.
look at variety. You know, it takes time to develop, and entrepreneurs are thinkers, right? We're worriers, we're thinkers. And so you need to keep it in there, take it in so that you can process it at another time.
I love that. I think that's so powerful. And that's such good advice on just some tangible ways people can get engaged and reach out to folks for help, but also like what to do with that help once you've received it. So
Right?
perfect.
Take it, even if you don't like it.
Yep, you got to. You got to be like a sponge. If you're an entrepreneur, just take it all in.
Yeah.
Um, great. Well, Paula, thank you so much. How can people learn a little bit more about Maui wine, and where can they go to learn more about your business?
Oh, okay. We have a fantastic website, mauiwine.com. And it is a really good site. You'll learn a lot about us. It goes through, there's some videos that go through our vineyards, and then we make pineapple wine, which is also just really amazing. And it ships around the world, and it helps keep a hugely important agriculture crop for Maui, for us to be able to turn it from a fresh fruit to a value added. So there's a lot of information in there, and my information is in there as well. Anybody can contact me. It's really easy. It's Paula at mauiwine.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I look forward to browsing the website myself, and I appreciate your story and just welcome everyone to reach out and learn more about the work that you're doing. So thank you so much, Paula.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye.